Yeah? What's cracking, everybody? Zerfa, Rose, and Maggie here. And she wanted to do it while the camera wasn't on, but she's walking. Come on. There you go. Oh, and she's got a knife. Come here. Alright, what's happening, everybody? What's cracking? Welcome back to the channel here. Just wanted to get that in because that was adorable. Maggie and Zerfa Rose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Badly content. And in today's video, we're going to be bringing you my first battles into the Ultra League Holiday Cup, featuring a Ninetales lead with the Charm, and then Auroras to close. And really, honestly, this... I'm not taking that out. That's staying in the video. Oh, I do all of these videos in one take. I'm not taking that out. And an XL Dubwool on the safe swap, which is going to be honestly the start of this video because because this thing is just so freaking bulky. And I know mine's not a hundo. Just the best one I had saved. I literally saved 2 from the time that it was in the game like 2 years ago, and I put a lot of resources into it, and honestly, I'd say it was worth it. So let's check out these battles featuring the XL Dubwool and company and see just how strong it is in this Ultra League Holiday Cup. So here we go. We got Ninetales Mirror on the lead. And so this is kind of awkward because while my Pokemon don't lose to it, I don't want to let my Ninetales be wasted, for example, on the mirror lead when it might have some play against something in the back. And so I swap to my Dubwool and it brings out a Virizion, which is great because that means that I'm going to take out the one thing that's probably going to pulverize my Auroras. And she is still... Oh, this is a toy knife. It's not a real knife. But if anybody was wondering, she's safe. What do you have? A knife! No! It's our favorite meme, dude. So this matchup is basically one that I'm going to lose on purpose, but the nice thing here is that the bulk of the Dubwool allows me to get to another Body Slam, which actually allows me to really threaten a shield here. And the reason why that's really important is because now it sets up Ninetales or Auroras for a Shields Up sweep. And now, this is probably a Stone Edge, so I'm going to shield it. It's a Stone Edge. That was probably a good shield. I've actually had a few where I didn't count correctly, and I thought that wasn't a Stone Edge. But anyway, opponent's Ninetales is going to come back in. I'm going to do a little bit of damage here, get up to an Shy Shock and then throw it, because I know I'm ahead on energy, because I have had more charms than that thing has. So I'm going to do the chip damage, and then I'm going to swap to my Auroras, and because they have no shields left, whatever they've got in the back better be able to survive a beam, and it probably can't, and that's why they're staying in. So I'm going to no shield just in case what they have in the back is not an ideal situation for me to be in, and they play the Gleam. I wasn't expecting the Gleam, to be honest, but they come up with a Giratina, and I'm going to go straight Weather Ball here, because I have a shield, and they have a Giratina that cannot survive 3 Weather Balls, and my Ninetales can safely charm down the rest of their team anyway. So I actually started this team with a Giratina lead. After 1 game, I quit using it because everybody was running Obstagoon Giratina, and honestly, the Alolan Ninetales felt like such a great core breaker at the time. And remember, this is day 1 of the Cup, so my patron's destroyed with this Cup, by the way. And if I didn't already mention it, these battles were done off of a Discord live stream that I did with the patrons exclusively, and if you would like to be a part of those kinds of live streams in the future, you can join the patron Discord, and there's a link in the description. There it is. Finally got there. Where you can join that up for as low as $5 a month and get access to pretty much all of my Go Battle League and Sylph tips, tricks, analysis, basically everything that I can think of for this game. So here we go. Once again, Obstagoon. Everybody was running Giratina or Obstagoon. It was marvelous. Ninetales just had a field day. Opponent brings in a Charizard, Auroras counter swaps, and this is a dominating matchup for the Auroras. Bless you. Because if I go for 1 Meteor Beam, at that point, I can just go straight Weather Ball. And if I shield the Blast Burn, which a Blast Burn only does like 55-60% to an Auroras. Little murderous child. I'm gonna stab somebody. And the opponent doesn't shield there because obviously it makes more sense not to, because they can just come in with their Obstagoon and farm my Auroras down. And the recording off of that live stream did not go too well, apparently. So I'm going to go for a Meteor Beam here, and then I should be able to get to a Weather Ball before they take me out. And that's a double boosted Weather Ball, so it's going to do some damage, right? You're scaring me with you holding that knife that way. You just hold it. Keep stepping away from my neck. Alright, so opponent's going to come in with the Talonflame, so they're basically running Goon Double Fire, which means I'm going to come in with my Dubwool because my Ninetales doesn't do well against things with fire moves. It just doesn't, for obvious reasons. So the opponent's Talonflame is going to go for the Flame Charge, start getting their attack boosted. I'm going to make sure I throw these paybacks here with good timing. The reason I'm going for payback is because I want the guaranteed damage, and honestly, I could get two paybacks in here and guarantee a shield. And that's what I'm hoping to do. But now, because I got that payback landed, I can safely just go for body slams instead and potentially get shields. Now, I could go for 3 double kicks. That would be the ideal timing here, but I want to be able to get my body slam off before my opponent can get to another charge move, which would be in that next Incinerate, before they finish that next Incinerate. So now what I can do is I could let this go, but I'm going to shield because I know that I can get to one more before their next Incinerate ends. So with one throw, no shields, going to body slam the Talonflame, take it out, and that is going to be a good game because now my Ninetales just comes in, charms down the Obstagoon, and that's all she wrote. So thankfully able to somewhat RPS my opponent. Obviously they brought up the Auroras, which was good for them, but then having the Dubwool against their Talonflame was a little bit more neutral. So thankfully I was able to outplay that situation and win the game. So we got a Mamoswine on the lead. And now I remember this thing has Stone Edge, and this is terrifying. So I'm going to come in with my Dubwool after I try to catch a Stone Edge, and I'm trying to remember the counts for Stone Edge. Failed to catch pretty miserably. My opponent farms up a bunch of extra energy and swaps out, and I see a Gyarados come in, and because I'm not running Wild Charge, I'm not going to fake it either. Honestly, I could have, but I just figured I'm just going to go for the guaranteed damage and just start pulverizing the Gyarados because I know that I can. In hindsight, I could have gone up to 5 for the payback and then thrown the body slams, but didn't really make a difference, I don't think, here. They probably wouldn't have shielded because you would be nuts to run Wild Charge in this meta, I would think, because if you're not running Body Slam, I feel like you're missing out on a really optimal move, and payback is kind of just what you need to deal with things like Giratina. So, Dubwool, by the way, this thing is ridiculously strong. Like, look at it. Look at this. I'm going to shield this up. I think. No, I'm gonna let go. All right. I realized here that I don't think I necessarily need a win switch here. But look, I could even survive the Aqua Tail. Like, a Dubwool in Ultra League is so ridiculously thick. It's actually kind of nuts. Can't understate that enough. Opponent's gonna come in, go for the Weather Ball. I'm afraid of the Stone Edge or even high horsepower at this point, so I'm gonna shield up. We throw an Avalanche Bait. I'm like, okay, that's kind of awkward. And then they go straight for another one. I'm like, there's no way this is an actual Stone Edge because they didn't go that far over. And they go for another Avalanche Bait. I'm like, all right. I'm gonna go for another, gonna go for this Charm down here. And my opponent gets to another move. And I'm like, you know what, at this point, if it's Stone Edge, so be it. But they throw an Avalanche and I live. So I don't know if my opponent actually had a move, but I have 2 Weather Balls to throw at this Dragonite, plus I got an Auroras. This is basically over. So well played to my opponent, unfortunately. Team comps. Dragonite is very strong, I think, in this cup, in the right swing of the meta, so to speak, because of all like the fires and the so much damage. Look at this. You know what? We'll take it because I forgot to piss the button, I think, last time. So yeah, Ninetales was just kicking so much butt. Now I've seen a lot more things like Magneton, Magnezone, Alolan Sandslash, so your mileage may vary with this one. But the Dubwool, however, if you got it, bust it out. If you probably already have, to be honest. If you got one, you've probably already used it. This is like the ideal meta to use Dubwool. Alright, so I've overloaded on a bunch of energy, and I'm going to start going for basically 1 double kick, throw the body slams, and I'm going to keep doing this because this is the optimal timing to do so, and with 1 more body slam, I can take out this Ampharos with with my body slam. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, or I'm going to force them to shield up, and they decide to shield up, which means I have a shield advantage, and I can go for 1 more body slam because of how much energy and how quickly it gets energy from double kick. That double kick is just, it made Dubwool immensely good. Now with a 2-to-1 shield advantage, I'm going to go for this body slam. My opponent is able to get there before I am by 1 turn, so they're going to take me out. I'm going to let them have it, and then my Ninetales is going to come in here and charm down. And after that charm down, the opponent is going to be shieldless, and they're going to bring in a Gengar, which I bring in my Auroras, and I'm going to be very, very wary of the fact that they may be running Focus Blaster, but they're not. But I'm not going to mess around. The only way that I lose this game is if I tank a nuke. And so I go ahead, I shield it, and the opponent brings in a Snorlax, and this is actually kind of scary, but because I have a shield and energy, I can go for Meteor Beam, and then either for another Meteor Beam, or I could just take out the Snorlax with a Weather Ball, probably. But I'm going to go straight for it here. I know that the Gengar's out of energy, so I would rather farm up against the Gengar and keep my shield rather than have to mess around with whether or not this Snorlax has a superpower loaded. But since we aren't able to KO with that Weather Ball, I will shield up here. And thankfully, it was a superpower that I shielded. That would have been really bad. So then the opponent's going to bring in the Gengar, and unfortunately, they have no way to win this game, so they concede the match. And by the way, this team went on like a 9-1 rip right off the bat to get me an expert. And right now, I'm working on an amazing, really, really interesting team to hit Legend. I've been, like, for the last 3 days, I've been on the cusp of Legend, and I'd go like 29.94. And then I do some bad, have a couple bad sets, and then go right back up to 29.90 something, and then come right back. It's been a roller coaster for the last 3 days now. So I shield up the Earthquake here, and then I come in with my double, and my opponent brings in a Giratina, and while I am down to shield, I have Payback. And if you haven't seen how much damage a Payback, you know how much you're excited to see it happen. Look at that. Half the Giratina's HP is gone for one Payback. So now they're forced to start, and look at how much damage Double has only taken so far. So maybe, yeah, they got to throw their energy, but Double can definitely force shields against this matchup. And my opponent's running Shadow Claw, which I've realized a little bit later on. You were going to blast some people's eardrums out, little girl. You got some lungs. You just really like sheeps. Gonna keep going for Payback. I don't want to bait. I have no reason to, because if for some reason my opponent decides not to shield that, that's a waste of energy and a waste of my time trying to build that energy up. And I know that I can easily live moves. I can get both shields here without a problem. So my opponent, because they have a Shadow Claw and their Giratina, means they're not going to be able to get to a move here before my double is going to get to a Payback, except I lied, they actually did. They had one ready to go right before I got to the Payback, but I let it go anyway, because now I know they're out of energy. And now my Ninetales is going to come in, it's going to farm this Giratina down, and I'm going to get to the Weather Ball right before, or just as, I think that was a CMP, just as they get to should be an Ancient Power, I would like to think. And they decide not to shield, they let it go. They're going to come in with their Walrein, I come in with my Aurorus. My Aurorus beats basically their entire team, so I'm going to go for the Meteor Beam. As soon as I tank this Aqua Tail, I have, Aurorus is so bulky in Ultra League, you don't need to shield this, even though it's super effective. Look, okay. Well, 35-40%, fine with me. Over farming a little bit just to get to this Meteor Beam, and if my opponent decides not to shield, I can shield and fire off another Meteor Beam, and they decide not to shield, which means my Aurorus is going to go on a nutty little tear here, and I'm going to go ahead and throw a Weather Ball here. I know my opponent probably doesn't want to shield this, and they're not going to, but I want to get them low enough where my Ninetales can just come in and charm it the rest of the way down. So I was more interested in chip damage than shields here. As long as I could save my shield for my Ninetales, I was happy enough with that. I saw my win condition with here was just making sure that they threw their energy to take out my Aurorus, and then my Ninetales comes in, charms down, and that's it. Now, just in case this is an Earthquake, I will shield it. I'm pretty sure they don't have enough energy for it, but just in case I can't count, and they can, and they can see the match. So, well played to my opponent here, but thankfully, Ninetales core broke just about the whole team. So, another mirror lead here. And again, the IVs on my Pokemon, like, you can see, they're clearly not perfect here. Like, I don't have a rank 1 Ninetales. I have a Raid IV, Hatch IV Ninetales. I have the best traded Aurorus I could find in a short period of time. And I have a non-hundo Dubwool with the best Buddy Ribbon on it. So, like, you can definitely see my opponent 5-head catching on the Giratina. Really nice play by my opponent there. Unfortunately, though, I think that this Payback plus the charm down from my Ninetales is going to make it a little bit more irrelevant. You are stabbing me with that knife, young lady. Nothing you say is going to let me forgive you. Okay, fine, you're too cute, I forgive you. So we're going to go for the Body Slam because I'm going to go down before I'm going to get to this Payback, unfortunately. So I will go for the little bit of chip damage that I can get. And then because the opponent is running Dragon Breath, I will be able to come in and double resist the Dragon Breath. But I will shield up a Ancient Power just because that would do some decent damage. And even though my opponent is going to be able to get to a move here, it is just a Dragon Claw, I am more than certain. So they too are going for the double resisted chip damage. And are going to go down to the Charms. Now, the opponent does have their Ninetales in the lead still. It's all a matter of what they have in the back. Solid chance they may be running something like Charizard in the back. Nope, they come in with a Snorlax, which is actually not terrible. But I'm going to actually keep this alignment here, because all they're going to be able to do is go for body slams and maybe a superpower, but I would much rather have my Aurorus against their Ninetales, because I can actually use that matchup to my advantage, and I can go for Meteor Beams against them. Now, I do want to get some shields at some point. That would be helpful. Aurorus down a shield against their Ninetales is not going to be having a good time. So we do CMP here on this Weather Ball, so I'm hoping that that will allow me to net a shield for my opponent, because I'm just about at the body slam range, so they don't have to take me. Hello, okie dokie then. So all I have to do now is land a Meteor Beam against the opponent's Aurorus, and so I'm going to come with my Aurorus. My opponent is letting me farm them down, which is a big mistake for them, but I'm going to shield this up because it's probably a superpower. So that's probably why they let me farm, is because they were going to get to the superpower, take away my shield, and I think that with a shield advantage, their Ninetales is going to be able to take me out. Did I say they had an Aurorus? I had Ninetales. My Ninetales easily gets to another Meteor Beam before their Ninetales is going to be able to get to Charms plus a Psyshock here. So this is going to be looking like a good game to my opponent. Very well played. But Aurora's just absolutely showing off how dominant it can be with this Meteor Beam. And you know what? Just for the sake of it, one-shots Ninetales, and that's going to be a good game. And the Snorlax comes in, gets farmed down, and that's going to be it. So we got a couple more games here. Trevenant lead with Ninetales, kind of neutral to be honest. I'm going to swap immediately into my Dubwool after figuring out if they want to swap out. The reason why is because some Trevenants will just assume that you have Powder Snow, or they just think it's a bad matchup, and so they'll swap out immediately. So in a matchup like that in the lead, I want to just see if they swap so that I don't end up, maybe example, swapping my Dubwool into a Virizion by example or something like that. So not that they would swap in a Virizion blindly into a Ninetales, but you get my point. So opponent is staying in here, and I wait specifically for them to be in the middle of a Shadow Claw before I throw that payback, because I want to make sure that they can't catch it. And the payback almost one-shots the Trevenant. And after a little bit of visual lag on my recording, the opponent is going to get to another Seed Bomb here, and I'm going to look to double kick down. I don't want to shield this. I know that this Trevenant could very well possibly be... Oh, there's a CMP tie. Okay, that was unfortunate. I was trying to get there before they did, but the... deadly little thing. Opponent comes in with an Ampharos. This is kind of awkward, but thankfully, because of the move timing, I'm going to be able to get to this Body Slam before they're going to be able to get off the damage from their second Volt Switch. And then I'm going to come back in, I believe, with my Ninetales, because I figure they're probably running Brutal Swing and or a Nuke. So I'd like to resist that damage, and they swap out, which kind of confirms my theory. And they come in with Porygon too, which I absolutely respect, as you guys know. I'm an avid user of Porygon too. Now, because this meta is filled with things like Giratina and Magnezone right now, I'm not using my Porygon 2 because I don't appreciate being completely walled. However, I can always respect a person using it, and I even said it to my patrons in this live stream here. I was like, man, you guys seeing this? Because this is some respect right here, this person running this Porygon 2. I absolutely love it. But fortunately for me, my opponent doesn't seem to get any debuffs, which means I'm going to be able to continuously charm and get to this Weather Ball. And with a shield advantage, my Aurora should easily be able to handle their last Pokemon. So we're going to let this go. The opponent is not going to bother shielding. Unfortunately, their Porygon did not get them any debuffs, and that is going to mean that my Aurora still has 2 shields with which to deal with this Ampharos, and I'm going to shield this up just in case they're running the Focus Blast, and thank goodness that I shielded that. My opponent is going to let that concession come through, and that's going to be a good game. So here we go into the next game here. We've got a Virizion lead, which is actually really good for me. Use your knife back, madam. And my opponent's going to safe switch into their Ampharos. I think I'm going to come in here with my Dubwool because I can really outpace this thing and do quite a bit of damage here. Roll over my hand, then you doofus. My Dubwool is going to continue to go for moves here. I'm not really sure how I snuck a move through there. The timing may have been off. I'm not sure what happened. But anyway, my opponent's going to go for Thunder Punches, and I actually will shield this up here because... Yeah, you're right. I have to win Switch. Otherwise, I'm going to end up losing this game because my Virizion, while Aurorus' ice damage is going to be super effective, the double super effective fighting damage from the Virizion makes that a really bad matchup. So I will give up that to win the Switch here so that I can keep my Ninetales on the Virizion. But now I've also got to keep in mind that the Virizion is going to have a Stone Edge loaded by the time my Ninetales comes in. So I'm really kind of hoping that maybe I'll be lucky enough not to have to tank one of those, but they've got 2 shields, and I am not in a good spot here. So I actually quick swap here to make sure that I don't get farmed down. I'm just going to pray to hope that they weren't expecting a Alola Ninetales in their team planning. and my opponent brings in an Aurora, so it's not all over yet, but it's not looking good. So the opponent's going to be able to just go for Meteor Beam here, and then they're going to be able to shield up, go for the Meteor Beam against my Auroras, and then take out my Dubwool. So this is definitely over for me at this point. So they shield at the Psyshock. They're going to go for the Meteor Beam. I can already tell you what's going to happen. Even though these battles happened a few days ago, this is as clean as my mind can get. Oof. Absolute pain. And I can tell you right now, I'm going to bring in that Auroras, and I'm not going to be able to catch a Meteor Beam on it. I need to bait and get to a Meteor Beam with my Auroras, and that is not going to happen against an Auroras that is ahead on energy and shields. And look at that, they got me. So, you know what? They can have it. They deserve it. One shot's my Auroras, and that's going to be able to take out my Dubwool easily after that, and that's going to be a good game. However, last game here, this is the one that got me up to Expert. We're going to see another Virizion lead, so this is going to be good. We're going to see what the opponent decides to swap in. They stay in with they come in with a Wall Rain, and I'm like, okay. So I got to swap out eventually here. Opponent's going to go for the Earthquake, and I look to catch it on my Dubwool, and it looks like I do. So thankfully, this Earthquake is look at how little damage this Earthquake is going to do to my Dubwool. Look at that, like 30% is nothing, dude. Dubwool is a monster, and so we're going to be able to overload on energy by a bunch because my opponent's not throwing any energy, and I'm going to be able to go for Body Slam. Really. Gonna go for Body Slam after Body Slam here. I need to win switch. It's a nice little spear. I know my opponent, even if they throw Earthquake, is not gonna KO me here, but came really close, a lot closer than I thought it was going to. So I'm gonna last second throw this Body Slam. Hopefully they let me win switch here, and they don't. They're smart. They decide not to. But however, I do have my Auroras, which I will come in and farm down with my opponent, even if they get to an Earthquake. I'm just hoping that since they decided to swap in their Wall Rain to my Ninetales, that they might not have an answer to Ninetales, or maybe they only have one answer in the back. So I'm going to farm down, have all that energy loaded, just in case they have a Charizard in the back, and I'm going to go for Weather Balls here. And I'm going to... You dropped it. Good job. I'm going to go for Weather Balls against the Virizion here. Because they swapped out right away, I know that they still need 3 double kicks to get to their first Sacred Sword. So that means I'm going to be able to toss a couple Weather Balls, get the first field, come in with my own Ninetales. Are you upset about something? I'm gonna go for the Weather Ball. My opponent catches it because unfortunately my Ninetales threw a Charm instead of going straight for the Weather Ball. And they're going to be able to go for Meteor Beam. My Auroras, however, with some energy lead here, is going to have to go for Meteor Beam itself. And then I'm just going to need to be able to leave that matchup with, hopefully, what will be a Weather Ball. Now, because I have a shield, I think that I'm going to be able to get to a Weather Ball against this Virizion. So, going to get kaboom the Auroras out of the planet, and the opponent just concedes. Now, I just needed to get to 1, but I think they did just kind of realize it was over. So that is going to be that's going to be a 9-1 run on this team here. Going to shoot me right up to expert rank here, and I picked up another team after this that was a complete meme, but it's actually been dominating. It literally 4-1'd me all the way up to almost Legend Elo, which that team is coming out in a couple days regardless of whether I hit Legend with it or not. But hopefully I can hit Legend with it and actually show you guys a team that went, hey, this is a Legend team, rather than this team is just really good but didn't hit Legend. So that's going to be it for this one. I'm going to go and try and do something with this homicidal baby. Get that out of your mouth. That is not a toothbrush. That is a knife. That is a knife. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye. Did you put that knife away?